Ben Shapiro here. There's two things about me people might be surprised to hear. One, I'm a huge fan of Rebrand, the podcast. Two, there's a giant spider where my heart should be. Just kidding. Nobody's surprised about the spider thing. Enjoy this episode of Rebrand.
Look, gang, we are not fans of Ben Shapiro at the podcast, but, he's a fan of the show, so what can you do? We had to throw it on there. Anyway, Mort Burke here. Just want to let you know we're doing a Q&A the 19th of May, which is next week, with Ashley and I. So if you want to ask us questions, you got to join the Patreon, which immediately gives you access to the Discord where you get to ask questions and stuff and talk to people about the show and suggest themes for episodes. You also get ad-free episodes, unreleased content, stuff like that. We are Rebrand the Pod on Patreon, and our Instagram is Rebrand the Podcast, so follow us there. As always, we're just happy to have your listenership, so feel no obligation to join the Patreon. We're just throwing it out there. And big shout out to Jason K at Jason K Comedy, who may or may not have done that incredible impression of Ben Shapiro, which you heard moments ago. The dude's a master impressionist and also just a hilarious comic, so thanks, Jason. Enjoy this episode with Elyza Halpern. She's so great. This is a really fun one. Thanks for listening, you guys.
Rebrand. Ding. Hi, beloved consumers. I'm Ashley Birch.
Hey, and I'm Mort Burke.
And welcome to... Cody's licking the shit out of his own butthole. Welcome to Rebrand, comedy podcast, where we inject new life into tired old brands, whether they be snack food, celebrities, or religious institutions.
If there was ever an intro, we should probably retake. I feel like.
I'm not gonna.
You're not gonna refuse to? Okay,
Yeah. Do you want me to do it again?
No. Let's roll. Let's start this episode off.
It was just so loud and right against my leg. You know?
Yeah.
Now he's being sweet and he's putting his head on my knees like an angel, and sighing loudly. But before that, he wanted to lick his butthole right when I started speaking for our podcast that we publish publicly. You know?
I sure do.
Welcome back from your tour, dear.
Thanks. Yeah, we did a comedy tour.
You did a comedy tour. How did the comedy tour go?
It was amazing. Listen to the last episode if you're interested with George McAuliffe. We talk a lot about it, like how a dog barked at me while I was doing stand-up.
Which I maintain was because he was laughing at you.
Yeah, you seem to think it was more of like an anthropomorphized.
He was going, ah, ha, 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 slapping his proverbial dog knee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing some belly grabbing.
Yeah.
No, I think it was just a poorly behaved animal. There shouldn't have been inside.
Yeah, that's fair. There probably shouldn't have been a dog in a comedy club.
And actually, the guy was really great. He was like in a band and stuff. Who was performing there before we were, I think. And I liked that he had his dog with him. Like,
sure.
I'm all for having dogs indoors, actually. But I just think once it starts barking at the entertainer and ruining his set, you should take him outside.
Rather than allowing him to continue.
Yeah.
Right. Do you want to introduce our guest?
I can't wait. I'm very psyched to have our guest with us. She's a hilarious comedian who lives in Los Angeles, and you may know her as Possum Girl on the socials and Instagram and stuff. She's goddamn hilarious. Elyza Halpern is here, everybody.
Hi.
Thanks for coming, buddy.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited. Yeah, I actually have worked day jobs in marketing, so I've had to do, like your other lovely guest, Hannah, have had to be in rooms where I've discussed rebranding before.
Wow.
No way.
Did you not know this going in?
This is a surprise. I'm only hearing about this now. Holy shit.
It's a jump scare.
Yeah, no, it is.
Anyone who works in marketing is a jump scare.
Yeah, it's like being in a...
Branding.
Yeah. It's a living horror.
Truly.
Yeah.
What was the worst thing you had to rebrand?
Oh my God. I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but sometimes there's startups where you're like, are you guys the next Theranos? Like, is this is this bullshit? Is this a scam? Am I gonna get arrested?
Is this a pyramid
because
scheme?
I'm working with you. Like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I'd say like the Silicon Valley bros who might be evil type of companies where it's like, this is either amazing or we're all going to jail. And I'm going to jail by association.
Because
Right.
we're promoting a product that it does not, like, they're like, we can test your blood and tell you your IQ or some kind of insane thing. And you're like, all right, this is either like a medical advancement or a fucking snake oil thing.
Uh-huh.
Is my guess.
Or people will die on my watch because of my graphic design.
That's amazing. Okay, so you were in rooms with these people. Can you give us I don't know, maybe an inkling or an impression of how they talk or the kind of things they talk about? How close is it to our podcast?
Yeah, how accurate are we? How biblically accurate are we?
I think what's most accurate is just like the sheer level of just like giving into. Well, I feel like you guys are less delusional is the thing. You're more like grounded in the reality of like, okay,
really? Because once we said that Wyoming should be shaped like an AK-47.
Which I still stand behind.
That is one of the more reasonable things I've heard in a branding discussion. That makes, there's logic there. It's like they're into them. Why would they not want to become what they love so much?
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I think it would do great.
Yeah, patriotic.
Yeah. So you're saying that the folks that you speak with are often just pulling shit out of their ass, which makes sense to me based on the ads that I see that follow no rhyme or reason. I really don't know how they got to air. I'm always complaining about that as if it hasn't been the case since time immemorial. But I guess we do suggest some logic to our suggestions.
Oh, totally. I think so. And I sort of ignore this phase of advertising, which was like, we're Skittles, we probably need to have a talking goat that Magic Johnson is riding. Or whatever, you know what I mean? Like the sort of arbitrary, like you don't get to be an artist, actually. You don't get to dabble in absurdism, Skittles.
I will say, though, there were those Skittles commercials for a while where everything the guy touched turned to Skittles. And it was kind of existentially haunting in a way that I did appreciate.
Uh-huh.
I'm not familiar with these Skittles commercials.
There was a period, maybe like 2010 to 2015, where every commercial had to be surreal and strange.
Oh, was that when like there was the guy who was the raccoon in the attic and he was like it was an insurance commercial?
For sure, that's one of them.
Yeah. It's like someone put something into a random number generator and then decided to make that into a commercial.
Like, we're Sprite. What if we had a fish that tap danced for no fucking reason? Yeah.
There was like that Quiznos commercial of those crazy hamsters. Remember that Scream sang?
What is that different than the Kia hamsters?
The Kia Soul hamsters.
No, sorry. The Kia Soul hamsters were very lovingly rendered CG hamsters. Yes. The Quiznos, I don't even know if you could call them hamsters. They were creatures, ungodly creatures, abominations with like, their faces were cut out of so many different like attributes as if from a magazine, as if you had just been delivered a ransom note. That was their face. And they were animated as if in Flash. So they were kind of janky. They were just sort of like, oh man. I really hope that someone responds to this and says that they remember what I'm talking about, because what I'm explaining right now sounds like a fever dream. But then they would be like, one of them had a little ukulele, and then they go, "Get the Quiznos!" Honestly, it tastes good to you, Quiznos.
This is exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Realistic depiction of what eating Quiznos feels like, though. Sorry if anybody wants to get sponsored by Quiznos.
For sure, yeah. Yes.
Is Quiznos, does it exist anymore? Can we even?
There's one, I believe, in the Baltimore, Washington airport.
Let's go, guys.
Which probably means it doesn't exist because that is kind of a liminal space. Yeah. Right? That is kind of the in-between.
Wait, you guys, speaking of airports, the segue of the century... We should get us on a plane and go visit that Quiznos, because what are we rebranding today, dear?
Yeah, we're going to rebrand air travel.
Air travel.
As suggested by Elyza, who had this to say about them specifically.
Oh, what did I say about air travel? Okay, so I think that we need to start viewing air travel as what it is, the public bus in the sky, and it should be priced and treated accordingly.
I love this. And what I also now am understanding hearing that is initially sky travel was celebrated.
Luxury.
And right. Yes. Treated respectfully an event.
Like Disneyland, you went in a suit.
Totally. Or going to see the opera or something.
Yeah.
Right? Or like a fun night out, like a fancy dinner or something like that. Which I think should still be the case because flight is, in my opinion, an abomination against God.
I agree.
And I'm a man. I want 2 feet on the ground. I was born here. I'm staying here.
He was born 2 feet on the ground. He shot out of his mom and immediately stood on the ground.
Stood straight up.
Had his hands on his hips, looked around.
Yep. Perfect posture.
Kind of a small room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Here I am, mommy.
Here I am, mom.
Yeah. And that's how I prefer to stay.
Somebody tried to pick you up and be like, "Hi, honey." You're like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
Yeah. I'm a grown man.
2 feet on the ground.
I just looked up, and apparently, fear of flying usually ranks somewhere between 5th and 10th place in surveys and studies.
What's number 1?
Yeah.
Fear of public speaking.
That's damn right.
Fear of heights is 2, and fear of enclosed spaces is 5.
Okay.
And I feel like those two things combined are flying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
So I feel like flying is 2 and 5 and 10.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's like if you were public speaking and you were
Covered in spiders.
and on a trapeze.
Yeah. And here's my thing. Like, you're in a tube in the sky 5 feet from fire next to kerosene. So it's also fear of fire. That's my thing. People are like literally an inch away from explosion at all times.
Yeah. You feel like you're riding in a Molotov cocktail.
Yes.
And it's 5,000 feet in the air.
I'm really glad we're doing this because I was just trying to convince Mort to get on a plane to go to my friend's wedding.
Yeah, and I just saw on Instagram, which I don't look for this stuff, but there was apparently like 2 very near misses recently. Of,
Really?
Like, planes being like about 100 feet from each other, like mid-flight, basically.
Listen, I'm not a Spirit Airlines stan, or maybe I am because they probably are the closest to the public bus.
Yes.
But they are like one of the only airlines that doesn't generally use Boeings. They use Airbuses. So for all people shit on Spirit, they use the ones that are not randomly crashing.
You know, you've never heard of a Spirit airline flight crashing.
You hear about people on it acting crazy. and
Yeah,
it
you
being
hear
kind
about
of
people
shitty.
crashing out on an airplane.
Mm-hmm.
But the planes themselves, because they don't have tables or snacks or most of your luggage to weigh it down, so they can just fly to their destination so
Drop
easily.
all your shit.
Yeah, absolutely. They're like, oh, you wanted that? You should have paid an extra $50 for us to keep your luggage in the plane.
There should just be a hole in the plane that you get on with your bag, and they're like, put it there, and you just throw it through the bottom of the plane, and then they
Anyway,
laugh at you and point at a random seat.
Like an old-timey, like, Mortimer Mouse sketch.
We're Spirit, you fucking dork, and then you just have to sit down.
So do you feel like because we should treat it more like the public bus, so your argument is that it should cost the same?
It should be $1.75 to fly to San Francisco, flying across the country, $25 at most.
Yeah,
Wow.
I love this because we're no longer getting what we pay for. Like, we're paying
Right.
so much, and it's absolutely just people who are having a mental health
Experience?
yeah, a lovely mental health experience, and they're in pajamas, and they're eating like rice out of a Tupperware thing with tuna on top of it. You know what I mean?
Mort, whenever anyone asks me how I am from now on, I'm going to say, I'm having a mental health experience.
It's really going to make people guess. They're not going to know. They're like, well, she didn't say crisis.
Yeah,
Experience could be good.
we treat them so black and white. You know what I mean? Who's to say a mental health event can also be like kind of fun?
That's my joke writing strategy.
Yeah.
Have a mental health experience.
I mean, hearing you say that out loud, though, is interesting that I did not register. For people that are afraid of flying, you're basically paying an exorbitant amount of money to have a panic attack.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit concerned talking about this is going to make it worse for me, but I will say I am always hyper conscious of the fact that I'm maybe 3 feet between me and unending sky. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay, to try to write us a little bit.
Yeah.
Because one day I think you do want to try to get on a plane again.
Yeah.
Which we can also wait until the Trump administration is over, because maybe that would help you in terms of, them not firing half of
The FAA.
half of the FAA. You know, we have a friend who's a pilot. And I remember us talking to him, and he was like, the likelihood of a crash is so infinitesimally small.
Yep.
Because he was like, your pilots, they also want to get home alive. Like, they're not getting on a plane if it's not safe.
Yeah.
I know there's that one story about that alcoholic pilot, but we're just going to assume that most of them are clean and sober. And they want to get home to their families just as much as the next person. So they're not going to get on a plane that's not going to make it to its destination. I think Yuli also, our friend Yuli was telling me that he watched videos of just extremely strong machines trying to bend and break the wings of planes, and it's nearly impossible.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were like bending them, and they like almost went into like a perfect circle.
Uh-huh. What happens to the plane mid-flight if the wings turn into a perfect circle?
Then you enter the portal. And the portal takes you to no man's land.
To the Quiznos and the...
To the Quiznos.
Nose in the BWI airport.
My thing is this. I want there to be a bus-style plane that is affordable, and I also want there to be like a very high-end plane where like John Legend is the co-pilot. And
Why do you want John Legend to be the co-pilot,
I just
honey?
want like Steven Tyler. I want somebody up front that I'm paying more money to like have an experience, and I want him to be in a full tuxedo. Because my problem with the bus thing is that I think I'd be more likely to feel anxiety on it.
I'm surprised that you wouldn't feel anxiety from Steven Tyler being so close to all of the various equipment at the front of the plane.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I thought that through. I want there to be an Airbus.
And an Aerosmith.
You just want a plane that is like that roller coaster. For some fucking reason, they turned Space Mountain into an Aerosmith roller coaster. Oh. You just want that as a plane. You just want that, I don't want to close my eyes on a loop for 3 hours as you try to go to Colorado.
Loving an elevator.
The only time we've ever been on a plane, which God bless you, sweetie, I'm so sorry. Mort had a full-blown panic attack. He's usually cool as a cucumber.
It was cool because I actually got to see it happen. It's one thing to describe it to someone, but it's a whole other thing to sit with someone you love while they have that experience.
It was terrible. He was truly as they were closing the doors, he was like, I can leave right now. I'll just drive and I'll meet you there. I was like, whoa, he is not fucking around. But on the other side of that was hanging out with his in-laws. That's not fucking fun. Why did I think that? We did it because it's a short flight, but that was a terrible idea.
No, that's a good story. This is how bad it was. So I'm trying to act as chill as possible. And that means that my facial expression is not changing, but there are tears running down my face. And the person next to me goes, do you want to read something? Try to hand me a book. And I was like, no, I'm okay. And then 3 flight attendants in a row came up to me and asked me if I was okay. And then the third one got on one knee, put her hand on my leg and said, repeat after me, I am safe, I am okay.
And then you did?
And I did that, and it took the fear down from 95% to 80%. And then we got off the plane, and I saw her, and I was like, yeah, I was just messing around up there. I was just acting, just fucking around. And she was like, oh, I have nightly panic attacks. That's how I knew to address that.
I was most recently on a plane 2 weeks ago, because I went back to the East Coast. Halfway through the flight, I said to the flight attendant who was coming through the aisles, because we were in a lot of turbulence going over the Midwest, is this amount of turbulence, this is normal, right? And she was like, what do you want to drink?
That's crazy she didn't respond. Is that because the answer was no, this isn't normal, we're in trouble?
I think that she probably doesn't get paid enough to address it because they're not paid like luxury service employees.
That's
I
what
have
I'm talking
friends
about.
who've been flight attendants and you're paid like a public bus rate.
Totally. If that was a trained therapist, we should turn this entire thing into an experience. Yes, Steven Tyler's there. Of course he is. Joe Perry, the drummer. Yeah, of course he is. Is the band stenciled onto the side of the plane? Yes, of course. And then also, all the attendants are extremely gracious. Some are Reiki practitioners, psychotherapists.
Well, this is what I was going to say. Honey, I just got to say, I think I know you well enough that Steven Tyler or any band member associated with Aerosmith is going to increase your anxiety. I just don't think you're going to want them on the plane. I really don't.
Yeah, speaking of drunk pilots, all the stuff Aerosmith was on. What cocktail you want flying your plane.
But I will say, I think that maybe, it sounds like we're looking for different styles of airlines. So we could have the public bus, which is there are no seats. Mm-hmm. You get a handle you hold on to. There are some cushions on the side of the plane. If there's turbulence, hang on to your hats, pals. But it costs $25.
I'm envisioning a New York subway car with buskers. There's people reading a paper.
Oh yeah, there's the it's showtime. It's those guys. They're doing flips down the plane and that kind of thing. No drinks served.
Yep, they're breakdancing.
It is the bare minimum required for a plane to stay intact and get to another place.
Yep.
Might fly even faster. No seats in there. So that's the public bus option. Then I think we need a fear flying option, which would be more of a premium.
Yep.
But every chair, I think, hugs you like it's it's your mama.
Yeah.
You can do a swaddle option where you just get swaddled.
Yeah.
And all of the flight attendants do have to have some training in either energy healing, psychotherapy. They have to know the basics of when someone's going through a panic attack. Also, it's really funny to imagine a plane full of people just going, oh God, when it's the smoothest flight to Seattle or something like that.
Just perfectly placid. People just going, I'm fucking losing it, man.
But maybe that plane flies a little bit lower to the ground. Maybe it takes you a couple more hours to get there.
Ooh, that's good. Do you feel like if the plane were lower, you would feel calmer?
I looked into that because I was curious, and apparently low flying, not to make it worse for either of us, but low flying can actually be more dangerous because there's less room to correct error. Because when you're really high up, it's they have more room to make up for whatever goes wrong.
For sure. And I'm sure that's technically correct, but I don't give a fuck
if the plane becomes a fireball as long as it's closer to the ground. There's something about being in the air, like
it is comforting when like you start to come down in like the trees on landing.
Some people hate that, but I love the descent. Like people hate the landing or whatever. I'm like, this thing can split in half. As long as I'm fucking near the concrete, I'm all right.
I was like that until that Reagan Airport shit happened with the collision with the Black Hawk helicopter, because I fly into Reagan.
Oh, damn.
Like once a year sometimes.
And you were always publicly very anti-air traffic controller. So there was that period where you were like,
fire them!
Yeah, we don't need them.
Yeah.
After all that shit went down, which is saying this out loud, it's really going to discredit me. But I went to a subreddit called Ask a Pilot. And basically, after that crash happened, someone was like, should we stop flying? What's happening? Yeah. And that's when there was someone that came and that claimed to be a pilot, but it did make sense to me, which is basically like, if pilots start going on strike and refusing to get on planes, then you should be worried. But he was like, we've been working at a deficit for so fucking long, it kind of doesn't matter. Like, we just figure it out. So I think on the fear of flying one, if every person got to come to the cockpit, because our same pilot friend has offered to take you into a smaller plane where you can be in the cockpit with him and he can show you everything he's doing.
It's like being in a minivan in the sky. I flew on Southern once from like Pittsburgh to Maryland. It was the size of a Sprinter van, the plane. Uh-huh. Never doing that again.
Really terrifying.
I would rather walk across state lines than be in a tiny plane again.
So you've flown a lot then, it sounds like.
I didn't fly for like a year and a half, and then I recently had to fly like 4 times in the last 4 months.
Did it get any easier, or were there differences in how you felt through all the flights?
That's a good question. I hate takeoff because I'm like, most accidents happen during takeoff. I probably shouldn't have said that. I'm like, I'm making this so much worse for more.
I do like knowing that though, because when you're done with takeoff, you're good.
You're in the clear.
You're basically good.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But then there's like a happy medium where it's like eventually for like that longer flight, I like chill out a little bit because I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm 30,000 feet in the air. I might as well watch Law and Order Organized Crime, which is a show I only watch on the Southwest app when I'm in the sky. No desire to watch that otherwise.
Something about being that high, it makes you want to see the mob take it down.
Exactly.
I get it.
Some airlines kind of operate like a mob. I think Spirit's bagging system operates like a mob. Whatever. Flying Spirit's good because I'm distracted by my rage at having to suddenly pay $80 to check a bag that I didn't realize had to be checked. Then, like, I'm okay most of that flight, but then the shorter flights that are like from Vegas to LA or Phoenix to LA, because you don't go up as high, and also because it's like over the mountains, that one I was freaking out on. For some reason, shorter flights always seem to be more rocky.
Did you feel that way when we were going to Phoenix?
I was in a full blackout.
That's true. I mean, you got off the plane and you were like, woo! You're like, he's walking on sunshine. Like, you were like, you'd survived a fucking tornado.
Yeah,
it was
I'm
crazy.
fucking moonwalking through the airport, high-fiving and stuff.
Oh my God.
It is true. I do feel way better when I get on the ground, which is nice. You know, once you experience torture, you're like pretty happy to not be in Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah.
You know? And I did EMDR over this. Like, I've really been working on it. But I also haven't been on planes since I did all that. So it's possible that I will like get on an airplane and be like, not so bad.
Okay. You want to put Steven Tyler on a plane, honey, and I need to let you. You're your own man.
Honey, he's got all those scarves.
Yeah. So describe to you your ideal plane experience if you had to go on a plane.
I get on there. Steven goes, I'm crazy just to meet ya. He starts singing.
Oh, he greets you as you
Aerosmith songs, but they're about my experience on the flight, right? And, you know, he's 86, but he's still dressed in like a singlet and stuff. He's got his microphone stand with
86!
With like all the scarves on it and stuff. He's still mad at Joe Pera, the drummer, the Toxic Twins, they called him. In my fantasy, Pera won't get sober, but Steven Tyler's got like 10 years or something like that.
Okay, great.
So he high-fives me.
So let me just make a note. Steven Tyler has to be sober. Okay, continue.
Yeah, and then he goes, hey, buddy, remember we teamed with Run DMC and had the hit of 1987? How about that? And then I high-five him, and then he goes, you want a warm cookie? And I go, sure, and he gives me a warm cookie.
Okay.
And then he walks me to my seat. Then he goes, I don't want to miss a thing. And then he goes back and flies the plane.
He's flying the plane?
Yeah.
He's flying the plane.
Yep.
I don't know if we can cure your flight fear.
Well, I've stated my needs.
You see, I want my pilot to be the most boring person I've ever met. No offense to your friend who's a pilot, but I want you to just be the most like chill, vanilla, even keeled person.
Totally.
Did Steven Tyler sing "I Don't Want to Miss a Thing" because he realized he needed to be in the cockpit to fly the plane?
Yep.
And he didn't want to miss his job, which was flying the plane?
Mm-hmm, exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I see. I think the more, like, when they talk like this and you can't really understand them, the more boring, vanilla, get me the most boring man that you have to fly this plane that's only interested in facts, figures, numbers, graphs. You know?
Yeah, totally. You want a public accountant in the sky.
Yeah, no one who's headlined the Greek before. Absolutely not.
So we have the Spirit Air. Well, we have the bus equivalent, which is no seats, dirty probably.
Yeah.
People doing backflips. We have the Fear of Flying. What else would you want on your Fear of Flying plane?
Xanax.
Xanax dispensers. Right. So that rather than like Sprite and shit, they offer you like
But it's like those like Christmas time giant tubs that you usually have like
popcorn
cheesy
in?
puffs in or whatever, but it's just filled with Xanax.
And honestly, because I've taken that before on a flight and it doesn't work because I've been like so anxious about the flight that I just like stay up. So honestly, just like have like a club to like knock me out, slapstick style if it doesn't work. Just I can
Like a
deal with it
caveman?
when I'm on the ground. Yeah.
Oh, I guess they could just gas you the way they would at a dentist, I suppose.
Yeah, just put you right under.
Yeah, just gas the plane.
As soon as all the panicked flyers, reach like level 8, they just hit the button and just gas infiltrates the plane and everyone goes to sleep. I think that's great.
Yeah, you do that?
Oh, in a heartbeat.
You wouldn't mind being gassed by a stranger?
No, I live for that shit. But I had the same thing. I was taking, what are they, beta blockers or whatever?
Whatever they are, yeah.
I didn't do a thing.
Really?
No. No, nothing. Not strong enough. It was a squirt gun on a forest fire.
Okay, so we have Xanax and or gas.
Yep. You know what I would like? Here's my thing. For some reason, I feel better when I'm tethered to the earth. So
You want a leash?
what I want is 2 giant towers. It looks like a zip line, but it's from here to Washington, D.C. or wherever I need to go. You just go, you just rise all the way up to it, and then it's just a straight line all the way there. It's no longer a plane, obviously.
A really tall train.
Yeah, a really tall train. Yeah.
That's like fucking Musk's Hyperloop he wants to.
What I imagined was that, because there's like, what do they call the dudes that have the wands that are like guiding the plane and whatever that are on the tarmac?
Yeah.
It's just 2 guys that each have like a rope attached to the plane and they just have to go with you. They just have
Like a Macy's Day Parade.
Yeah, like a Macy's Day Parade. And so they're not actually doing anything, but then you feel like there's a guy down there that's got the rope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll help me feel safer. That's all I need. I just need the illusion of safety. That's
Right.
all. That's all I'm asking for. Yeah.
You know what's an illusion of safety? The Amtrak train. Because I also, on this recent trip, took an Amtrak train. I was completely calm, despite the fact that Amtrak had no security. You can bring, I probably shouldn't say this, you can bring whatever the fuck you want on an Amtrak train. They didn't check any of our bags.
Really?
Yeah.
That's why you could have had plastic explosives in there.
You can have whatever you want. You could have a Wyoming-sized AK-47. It's not, but I was completely calm because it was on the ground.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Right. You could see the scenery going
Yeah.
by. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what if instead of letting you see out the window at the sky, there was just a convincing forest scene? So if you open the window, it would look like you're going through a forest.
But I've seen Yellow Jackets is the problem.
Okay.
They crash in a forest.
A beach.
Don't watch that show, Mort. Do not watch that show.
Or you can pick. You'll have a little LED screen there instead of a window. And then wherever, whoever you are, you could be like, oh, it's a beach. It's a forest. It's a little, it's a Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you want.
Yeah.
You won't see the sky.
Yeah, it's Ryan Gosling saying, "Hey."
It's the meme of people feeding him cereal or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
that, yeah.
It's an episode of Sesame Street. It's whatever calms you down. I think that's great. Trick my brain. I think I'm very easily tricked. You know, I think it's easy for me to pretend if I can convince myself I'm not actually in the air. I think that'd be really great.
Okay.
I think that's another function of the premium scared flyers flight.
Right.
Yeah.
What if they just put your ass in VR for the whole flight?
Yeah, that's entirely. I mean, that might work. That would probably that would actually do a really good job, I think.
Really?
Yep.
If you were just in a VR headset and it just projected this house as if you were still on the ground.
Yeah, this house, but I got to karate fight bad guys or something.
It's like you're more comforted by home invasion than on a commercial airliner. See, I don't think I could suspend disbelief is my problem because I try that. I try to think like, oh, just imagine you're on a train, imagine you're on a boat and there's like waves and that's the turbulence. But what I think I would need is like my premium flight is like, I don't know when exactly the flight is going to happen. I just know it's going to happen in a time window. But then in the middle of the night, some people come to my house and kidnap me.
They put you out. They dose you.
Exactly, precisely. Mm-hmm. And then they put me out, and then I wake in the LAX terminal back in LA. And I don't remember any of it.
It'd be like teleporting. It's full service.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
See, you were giving me the business about the home invasion, but you can understand the appeal of a midnight kidnapping where they throw a bag over your head and put a loose rope around your neck.
Rebrand kidnapping. There should be a TaskRabbit task you can do that's like, we'll kidnap you eventually.
It's got the guy's name. It says Craig or whatever. He's a student at USC. Like, just a really pleasant description of this guy.
Just trying to pay my loans.
It's hard out there in the gig economy.
Yeah. I think that's brilliant. Because and what you were saying to made me think of this idea also is that like, what if the premium flight, you show up at like 10, you get on the plane, but it's made to look like a fancy, I don't know, like New York living room in Manhattan. Here I pronounced Manhattan.
Manhattan.
Yeah, to illustrate my sophistication. and you don't know when it's going to take off.
Right.
So you're just sitting there chilling. They're bringing you martinis or whatever you're having, you know?
Yes. I will. Okay, my question is, you would feel when it's going to take off.
Yes.
Because it would tilt and then everything would fly.
So would that make it worse or better?
Well, so what you said about, I'm not good at imagining that I'm not on a plane, but if we institute the VR here, I think that the virtual reality is for sure stronger than my imagination.
It's just you have them into the actors from Inception going like, we're going into the deeper level of the dream when everything starts fucking spinning
Yes,
and sliding.
that's what I'm saying. We need to hire Leo and Elliot Page and the whole crew to come back and be in the VR action scene that allows me to be like, oh yeah, I'm not on a plane. I'm saving the universe and also in an intricate sci-fi mystery about the nature of reality.
How do you feel about because I'm really leading toward this kidnapping. Would you be down with that?
Yeah, but I still, I have a slightly different idea for this, which is that they try to kidnap us, but I beat them very badly. And then I have to take you, and we have to get out of the city. So then I'm a real kind of a John Wick style hero, fighting my way through Los Angeles to get on the plane to save both of us.
So we need to. So we have to institute an entire alternate reality Jason Bourne style wrapper around the proceedings for you to be able to get on a plane to go to Seattle.
Yeah, and I still might have a weeping panic attack on the plane.
Oh my God. I do love that though, because I feel like the lead up to you getting on the plane, you know, because we would have to make it convincing, so they need to be stunt actors, and I should be wearing squibs. Yeah. So at some point I get hit, and then it looks like I'm bleeding, but then you get me out of it, and then your adrenaline will be so spent.
Yes.
That the commensurate, is that the right word?
It feels really strong.
It feels strong. It felt good when I said it. You would have already spent all your cortisol, basically, is what I mean.
And also, I think that when I'm beating up the bad guys, they're saying to you, wow, he's so powerful, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just to make me feel stronger and more empowered, you know? Do you think that would do it for you?
I feel like there's a deeper self-esteem issue here.
You know what? That's interesting. I won't hear that. But thank you for... I won't accept that as a possibility, but thank you for saying that.
I really like this. I like both options. I like basically Because our friend Yuli will say, like, he likes getting put under, which I always find a little scary because they make you sign that whole thing, which is like, if we put you under anesthesia, you might die, which I always find a little troubling.
Yeah, we might put your heart to sleep.
Yeah, accidentally, whoops. But he loves it because he feels like it's time travel. And I feel like that is sort of the only way to simulate time travel is to be unconscious and then wake up and you're in a different place.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah.
I love that shit. That's when I was drinking, it was my favorite. Goodbye. I go to sleep. I wake up. I'm like walking around with a stranger, like seeing a movie I didn't mean to see. It's incredible. It's like handing the keys of your body over to a stranger. You're like, do what you will.
Let me take a break.
Yeah. Let me
consciousness.
Totally. Let me take a break. I'm tired of making all these decisions.
I love the Jason Bourne of it. And I think what appeals to me so strangely about the kidnapping is I have anxiety about not the flight as much as all of the logistics and trappings around getting on the plane.
Yeah.
Once I'm on the plane, I'm like, whew. But like getting through security, making sure I find my gate. I was like, I had to run to my gate recently because they announced that it was boarding and I just didn't hear it. And then I was on the phone with Mort.
Yeah.
And I looked at my boarding and I was like, oh, boarding at 8. Boarding at 8! And I had to and they were calling my name as I was running. And I was the last person to board. So that's the kind of shit that freaks me out.
And I think for Aerosmith Airlines...
Oh no, Aerosmith Airlines.
Aerosmith. Yeah, well, I just think they issue a card and you just swipe it and it takes care of all the bureaucratic bullshit. Because what you're saying is absolutely true. Like, you have to do all this line waiting, all this other awful shit that is like a whole full-time job to be able to fly.
I'm just imagining Mort in the back like, oh no, I hope we don't miss the flight and not have to get on the plane.
Yeah, totally. All right, yeah, okay, question for the kidnapping situation. Well, I guess, I don't know. For some reason, I'm thinking of the narrative of it. Like, do they have to ride with you all the way to your destination? Like, at what point does the...
in my opinion... I feel like maybe I should because it was your idea, I should let you pitch it out. But I feel like...
No, piggyback on it.
I think they put you out, and then it's just a weekend at Bernie's thing until you get to your destination. Uh-huh. So this poor sap has to lug your unconscious body into a car, get you through security, do the whole rigmarole of like, sir, you need to take her shoes off, and him being like, fuck. And then he has to take my shoes off and put them in the thing, and then I get beeped, and they have to search the bag. He's holding me unconscious while all this is happening. Yeah. He has to fight with the TSA person. He goes, sir, and he's like, I have to talk to your manager. All that's happening, I'm just like, and then he has to get on the plane with me. He has to buy himself a seat next to me on the plane. And then I start to wake up, he has to dose me again, and then he has to then collect my bag and me, and then put me in a taxi, and then I'll wake up when I'm in the taxi to get to my destination.
You literally turn this into human trafficking.
So they gotta be like a medic to make sure they know how to dose you.
Yes.
They gotta be like a bodybuilder to carry you.
And I think all of those things are felonies, by the way. I think this person is like risking incredible jail time.
I am advocating for consensual human trafficking.
Rebrand human trafficking.
We don't yuck your yums here. If you want to be human trafficked, then we're fully behind that.
You know, they're clearing out all these federal agencies. I bet there's a lot of like fired CIA agents that aren't getting with the program that could do this.
Human traffic? How about human expressway? Because I just wake up, I haven't had to deal with any of the hassle.
Side note, that's an amazing observation that there's going to be like black ops trained CIA agents who are now going to be working as like baristas and stuff. They could take a human life in like 3 seconds.
And so they're making a frappuccino, your Sakura frappuccino.
Lattes in Silver Lake or whatever.
Or they could knock me unconscious and get me to my destination. Just saying.
Something like that. I think we'd have to pay that person upwards of $30,000, and I think they'd be earning all that money.
Look, if the ticket price is included, steal. Screaming deal.
Yeah. See, no matter how much money I had, I would not fly private because it's like, you know, small plane, they crash more often. But I would do that for the same price. That's what I would spend my money on if I had like pop star money.
Well, and when I shot a commercial in Arizona and they flew me first class, and I will say it helped my anxiety like, I'm not going to say dramatically, but it helped my anxiety because you're not like surrounded by the teeming masses.
See, I like that. That's why I like the public bus thing. I like to be distracted by people and their bullshit.
Yeah.
So that distracts me from my own thoughts.
Honey, you're like a little prince.
I'm such a little fucking prince, man.
See, the public bus is great for material because it's like you just see all of humanity.
That's true. I was working with someone who took the bus to work recently, and he was offered like a fully like a crack pipe that had already been prepared for him.
Oh, really?
And I was like, that's really considerate.
That's incredibly
He was
polite.
just like, do you want to hit?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like letting you sit at the head of the table or something.
I know.
Yeah.
I was like kind of rude not to take it. He'd gone through all the effort.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
He was the asshole. For sure.
Who says California doesn't have hospitality? When I go through the TSA security, I also get kind of anxious because I'm convinced that they're going to find cocaine on me. I've never done cocaine in my life. I've never had cocaine. I hang around comedians, so I've seen a lot of cocaine. But like, I'm like, this is the time when something's going to be planted on me or I'm going to have brushed against something and the dog's going to sniff it and then I'm going to go to jail.
So I have a story. Back in, I want to say it was like 2014 or 2015, I was doing a lot of conventions and I had like hurriedly packed the night before and I was going through security and my bag wasn't being let through. And I was like, oh, okay. And so, but they weren't doing the thing where like it went on a different conveyor belt and then someone goes and swipes it or whatever. So I was just like sort of waiting and sitting there. My bag was just like stuck. And I went up to the guy because a long time had elapsed. And I was like, hi, that's my bag. Could I get it back? And I think he thought he was like doing like a cool dick swagger move where he said to me, make more memories. And I was like, What? And I think what he was trying to say was, remember what you put in your bag? But he said, make more memories with the most smug attitude I ever heard a human being utilize in my entire life. Anyway, I was like, what? And I found another person and I was like, hey, they're just holding my bag. I don't know what's going on.
And they go, use thoughts better. And you're like, what is happening with you?
Are you guys okay? Is there a gas leak?
That's like a youth pastor line, like, reach into your soul.
Yeah, there's a real poetry to that asshole thing he said.
So the other guy goes up and he's like, he comes back and he's like, is there perfume in your bag? And I was like, no, I don't wear perfume. He goes back, he looks, he's like, is it your boyfriend's bag? And I was like, no, it's my bag. Like, what is happening? And I was starting to freak out because at the time I was living with a bunch of potheads. And I was like, at some point, and weed wasn't.
It was the band Sublime. Keep going, honey.
Weed was not legal in California anymore. And even, I don't think it's still legal to, I still think it would get confiscated or something would happen, even though it's legal here. You couldn't take it on a plane now anyway, but still, back then it was illegal. And I was like, fuck, did like a joint or something fall into my backpack or something somehow? And he comes back and he's like, it's just really weird. Whatever's in your backpack, it looks like a grenade. And I was like, grenade? Oh no. And I remembered I had a prop grenade.
Oh no.
In my bag that we were going to use for a sketch I was filming. We didn't end up using it and I left it in the bag and that was the bag that I had packed to go to the convention. And so there was a fucking grenade in my bag at the airport. Oh, no. And I went, oh no. Oh my God, I am so sorry. It's a prop. I do stupid comedy sketches. It's a prop. It's a prop. It's a prop. I swear it's not real. And he goes, oh my God. And then they pull the bag out and this poor explosives expert dude that's like, Jesus Christ, like has to come and he's got, there's a dog there and he's got his gloves. There's a hole in the bottom of the grenade. Like it's like such a prop. It's like completely hollow, but still he has to go through this whole rigmarole. There's a cop that shows up that's like glaring at me. Finally, I get, relieved or whatever. But the cop goes, if this had gone another way, you and your little replica would have been in handcuffs. And I was like, I wanted to be like, oh, really? Would they be tiny handcuffs for the replica? Would he have like a little tiny handcuff on him? Sir, what the fuck does that mean? Why can't anyone speak properly in this fucking airport? I barely made my flight, and then my connecting flight got canceled when I landed. And the guy running the convention was like, well, there's a snowstorm, but another one of the guests that you've never met before is driving through the snowstorm to get to the convention, so you could go with him. And I was like, I'm going to go home. And I was put on a list, and I couldn't get TSA pre-check for 5 years.
Oh my God, because
of a prop grenade that I accidentally brought in my bag.
These are the consequences of doing comedy, kids. You will end up on a watch list. That's crazy. A friend of mine who does like cosplay had a fake bazooka once and got stopped by the cops when she had the fake bazooka in the back of the car. I had to explain it to the Baltimore PD.
Oh no.
In my head, I was like, okay, the grenade is the craziest thing you could get caught with, and then you said bazooka. And I was like, oh, that's right. You happened to be doing a sketch where you had a ransom note about taking the plane down.
It's a sketch about being a terrorist.
What about if we hired for the premium flight the existing cast members from Monty Python to perform some of their classic sketches at the front of the plane to entertain us so we're not so afraid?
Totally.
You're fish slapping, etc.
The more things that you say, honey, the more I do feel like you are a little prince, because you're always thinking about celebrities being like, yes, please, my jester, dance for me.
Yeah, no, it's embarrassing. First, dude, I need 6 pillows everywhere I sleep. I'm extremely sensitive to, like, shirt material. Like, anything too scratchy I can't wear for more than an hour. I'm the most easily starstruck person in the world. Like, I pretend like I'm super cool, but you could be like, that person's famous. I've never seen them before. I'm like, oh gosh, boy, sure do feel shy now. I'm a fucking little prince.
You're my little prince, honey.
Yeah. Which isn't fair because I was born poor but pale. You know what I mean? And you should either be pale and rich or tan and poor, you know?
You shouldn't have the constitution of a little prince, but actually be a pauper.
I think I look great, but also I would make a lot of sense in the royal family. And those people, like, the only reason you want to do that is because you have, like, jewels and power, you know? I've been a real victim my entire life. That's
I don't know how successful Aerosmith is going to be, but let's put it out there and we'll see. Like, maybe it'll make its money back threefold, you know?
Each ticket is $450,000. You got to get, like, 3 people on the plane and you're making your money back.
But also you have to get 3 people to agree to let Steve Tyler fly them somewhere.
3 people given the privilege of Sir Steven Tyler. Can I tell you another great Steven Tyler?
You have too much trust in celebrities.
What? They've never done anything bad. I was reading a Rolling Stone profile of Steven Tyler one time, and he's like driving around LA and stuff, and this woman stops him and she goes, oh my God, I'm such a huge fan of yours, and my husband is such a huge fan of yours, and unfortunately he has cancer. And Steven Tyler puts his hand on her shoulder and says, I guarantee your husband's cancer will go away and he will be fine. What a fucking asshole!
He's either an asshole or he's mad.
Yeah, do we know? Do we have follow-up information?
I don't think so.
And this is him self-reporting the story?
No, this is the profile, the person writing
the guy
profiler.
What did the journalist say about it?
He just sort of left it as it was and allowed you to do your own understanding of, like, this person is very sick. Like, the hubris here is incalculable.
Look, what if that lady's husband did go into remission? I would get on a plane with him.
Yeah.
That'd be all the evidence I need.
You know, he's got the long hair. Maybe he's the second coming.
Yeah, you know what I mean? We've been waiting this whole time, right in front of our noses.
What about an airline called Con Air, where you get to reenact the plot from Con Air on the airplane?
I assume that it was like a joke and you were getting conned.
Yeah, okay, sure.
You know?
Who would fly that, though?
I know, great question. I'm finding it. Maybe it is, okay, here we go.
Okay.
It's for con men, women, and non-binary people. So it is an escape plane.
Oh, I see.
For if you've done some dirty deeds.
Yeah.
You know?
Not like an escape room. You're saying...
No. It's your way out of the city.
Oh.
Con Air. You con someone, you got to get out.
Oh, like a convict.
Yes, convict.
Yeah.
Con Air.
Okay, great.
We'll fly you to a place that will not extradite you back to the U.S.
Yeah, this is a fucking great idea.
If they can't find enough people that need to flee, they can reenact Con Air.
Sean Connery can fly.
Free.
Yeah.
Sean Connery flies for free. That's their only, what do you call it? That's their only, what's the word I'm looking for?
It's a hard time to do podcasts because everyone's losing language.
Yeah, everyone's ill and fearful and tired.
Yep.
So you can't speak under those conditions.
What about an airline that's called Airedale, and the planes all have Airedales on them, which is a specific kind of dog?
I like that.
So I think that's a good one.
That's a good one. We're really doing a rapid fire around here.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Kind of a slow...
A slow rapid fire.
Yeah, kind of a low, slazy.
Yeah.
Low, lazy rapid fire round.
Oops, all babies. Put all the babies on their own plane. No adult chaperones, just all the babies, just car seats.
Like no adults?
Yes. Just put the babies on their own plane.
That's true. Yeah, that's
You don't have to
wonderful.
fly with your baby.
Somewhat
That's true.
traumatizing for the babies, maybe, but they maybe not.
Yeah, they'll get over it.
They're gonna be bummed either way.
Or, you can do that, like, if you want to, but, like, I love the idea of, like, yeah, if you have a baby, you have to go on the baby flight. Sorry.
Totally.
It's like, look, it's your we love your baby. We'll
Yep.
take as best care of you as we can, but we're going to put them all on one flight. They're all going to cry at the same time. Those flight attendants have to be paid $1 million a year.
Yes. And also for the parent, I'm not a parent, but I think that they get pretty embarrassed and feel bad when their child is freaking out, right?
Right.
So that relieves them of that, too.
Because it's just all babies crying.
Oops, all babies.
Oops, all babies.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah.
Also, a flight where maybe this is an extension of Con Air, but where you can bring. You can't bring, like, weapons or anything you could use to, like, do something dangerous, but anything else illegal you can totally bring. Ooh. Any drug, any exotic animal.
Just monkeys and tigers on the fucking, this is,
It's Tiger King.
yeah.
Plants and
It's like
meats.
it's in a cage. Like,
Yeah. Weed
Exactly.
plants, poppy
Yeah.
plant. Yep, totally.
Yep.
It's the dark web airlines.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that's great.
Dark web air.
Yep.
Everyone's wearing those Guy Fawkes masks. All the flight attendants are.
Whatever weird,
Yeah.
like, S&M sex shit you want to have, leather gimp suits or whatever, all that stuff. I think that's really great. Furries, for some reason, are there. I just imagine, like, all the stuff you wouldn't want to bring
Of
onto a
course
normal.
they are.
You know what I mean?
Of course they are.
And loving their lives. Those, like, the people that are obsessed with My Little Ponies, you know? They're there.
I feel like we should keep a tracker that's like minutes to goth on this podcast. Inevitably, we end up pitching something that's either goth related or honestly maybe furry related at this point.
Yeah.
So we should really try to track at what minute do we bring up making something goth.
I do like for the goth airlines, like the mumbly, sarcastic announcements would be pretty good.
Yeah. Speaking of furries, I have a hot take about furries.
Oh, please.
I think furries are tight. I think okay, like
Hell yeah.
I would love to walk around in a mascot costume being something other than myself. People shit on furries, I think, because they're like, that looks like so much fun. Tell me you have not wanted to be a mascot. Rebrand furries. That's another podcast.
Yeah, they're jealous of the furries. The furry
Yeah.
experience. Totally. I agree with that. I think people make fun of skateboarding. I think they're all jealous of it.
Totally.
And also with furries, they're not all sexual. Like, the punchline is...
they not?
No, they're not. They're not.
Most aren't actually. I thought
most
this was-
Really?
aren't. Yeah, a lot of them are not. Yeah.
Okay, not to be the negative Nancy, but I must speak my truth, which is I do think the mascot costume has to be deeply uncomfortable.
It's probably really like
Sweaty, smelly.
I bet
You
I bet
know?
the ones who... I bet these people take good care of their mascot.
How would you feel
Uniform.
if your pilot came out of the cockpit and he was in a furry outfit?
Is he turned on?
Rock hard.
Safer.
Yeah, whatever he needs to do to get in the right headspace for this flight.
We had an episode where I really think our friend Dana, I think she may have discovered that she was a furry on air.
We should have an all fursuit day at the Lyric mic.
This is our favorite open mic in
Yeah.
Los Angeles. 1 p.m. Fridays. We should do an all furry open
Yes.
mic. Yeah. Well, and there is a difference between furries and mascots too.
Right.
They're
My
all-
uncle makes mascots. Najo makes
That's
mascots.
in Thailand?
In Thailand, yeah.
That's so sick.
He does.
Yeah.
Yeah. How
Yeah,
long
we've
have
got
we been recording, by the way, honey?
over 4 hours now. We'll wrap this up soon. You should get a mascot costume. You should get yourself a furry, or maybe really just we should invent furry airlines. And especially for people who want to start experimenting with the furry lifestyle, which it sounds like you do.
I'm sorry. I just imagine.
Just while in the plane.
I don't want to put this image in your head, but I did just imagine something going wrong with the plane and everyone trying to put the oxygen masks on, but they're all in furry costumes.
Over the snout.
Yeah, different like beaks and stuff. They're all struggling.
Why do we do this?
And they're so sad when they have to take the full head off to put the mask on their human face. That's so sick.
It's breaking my immersion. It's breaking my immersion.
Is there anything sadder than a plane full of furries, heads removed, defeated and sweaty?
With oxygen masks.
Going to the pilot, like, please just crash.
The pilot just salutes and goes right into a mountain.
The pilot's in a bird costume.
He's been waiting his entire life for this moment.
I feel like that's as good a spot as to wrap it up.
Yeah, powerful work.
Powerful work, everyone.
Powerful work, everyone. I don't know that we successfully rebranded flying, but we had a lot of fun.
We created like 4 or 5 new airlines, you know?
Yeah.
We're seeking VC funding
Yes.
as we speak.
Yes, so if anyone's interested.
Oh, and the movie Soul Plane also. I would like there to be an airline that just replicates
yes.
Soul Plane with like Snoop Dogg and stuff.
Yeah, totally. What about Snakes on a Plane?
Yeah, sure, of course. I'm surprised we didn't get there. Yeah, that's kind of a comedy experience, I think.
Right, sure.
You know, there's kind of silly like fake snakes falling out of that.
Yeah, right. It's not like actual dangerous venomous snakes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's not Samuel L. Jackson. He is there, of course.
Yes, yeah.
But interestingly, he's playing his role from Jurassic Park.
I think for Halloween, all planes should dress up as a famous plane. Like one should dress up as the Con Air plane. One has rubber snakes everywhere, and it's dressed up as snakes on a plane.
That's good.
Totally. This sounds like a silly question. Are there planes in the movie Cars?
There's a movie called Planes.
There is?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're dressing up like those planes.
Yeah, they just have big old eyes on the
movie
outside.
Planes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And then one of them falls off and takes an engine out with it.
Have you seen the very dark Cars universe plane meme that went around a while ago?
No.
Someone said, like, if planes in the Cars universe are, like, sentient and the Twin Towers are gone in the Cars universe, so 9/11 canonically happened, which is true, like, there's no Twin Towers in the New York City skyline in the Cars movies, then were the planes hijacked or were they on a suicide mission? I think about that once a week.
They never address the fact that there's supposed to be people in the planes or the cars, right? So I think the planes themselves are terrorists. That's my
They are
take.
sentient.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us for this very special episode of Rebrand. Where can the people find you?
Oh, you can find me on Instagram at possumgirl_IG, on TikTok at possumgirl. Just Google me, ELYZAHALPERN. I perform around LA sometimes. You can maybe find me on the no-fly list if I accidentally bring something through TSA.
Go see Elyza do stand-up. She's fucking hilarious. And thank you for being here. This is
Yes.
brilliant. You can find us at Rebrand the Podcast on Instagram. Go leave reviews of Rebrand so glowing that your parents are concerned for your mental health. And
Mort's looking wistfully out the window as he says this.
And join our Patreon if you're so inclined. We're so happy to have you as listeners. We don't need your money. We understand it can be tight out there and stuff. But if you want to join the podcast, you get ad-free episodes. Ashley and I are going to do a Q&A on the 19th, which you can ask questions in. You immediately get to join our Discord, which is lots of fun. You can suggest themes for episodes and stuff like that. And that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for listening, you guys. Everybody, keep rebranding out there, guys.
Guys, keep on keeping rebranding.
Oh, ABR. Always be rebranding.
Rebranding.
Okay. Bye.